After dealing with a leak in our bow area for a long time, we've kind of narrowed it down to this front hatch. It's an old style Lewmar hatch, and it's been leaking from the gasket in between the hatch itself and the deck. So it was high time that we finally dealt with this issue and try to figure out exactly where the leak was coming from and get it addressed. Because this hatch is on there so good that it would actually be sealed, but it's not. You can tell from all the sides, all the dark wood, water's been coming in for a while. And actually, it wasn't leaking from the hatch, it was migrating over to some spots over on the sides that we could not figure out for the life of us where the leak was coming from. So I'm hoping this is the cause, because this is always damp and the water isn't dripping from here, so it's got to be going somewhere, right? So this end is being incredibly stubborn. So I think I figured out what's going on. There's screws up here, bolts that go all the way through. So I believe this is the access under here. Looks like there's a hole there. So I think the bolt goes all the way through. That's why I can't, it comes off easy here. But over here it's just stuck on. I'm glad I didn't pry on it like crazy or I would have bent the frame. Definitely holes there and they're lined up with the bolts, so it's gotta be in there. Can't see up in there right now, but that's my problem. Well, I'm glad I figured this out. Man, these bolts, I've never seen a hatch designed this way, but you're definitely not going to lose the lid of the hatch this way with them through bolted all the way like this. Alright, we got it off. Oh, so much easier. Aha!
Yay!
Got it!
Definitely.
So what's the verdict?
I would say remove it. It's moving way too much. It's probably water coming in from there. Because we deal with having to put buckets in that bedroom because it leaks like crazy every time.
Try pulling on it just so. Yeah, it's flexing a lot. Those screws need to be tightened. Well, I guess we might get into more of a project than we were planning, as usual.
It's always like this, but might as well do it good at once.
So yeah, we'll remove all the bungs around the, I guess that's a trim piece. Remove the trim piece, clean it up, and then maybe fix up the teak around it. Anyway, it's all stuff we need to do at some point, and might as well do it now, I guess. Well, it's the next day here in Portsmouth. Had a sweet supper with Dan and Peg yesterday, and now I'm back on this project this morning. These plugs are taking a lot longer to take out than expected, but we're getting somewhere slowly. So I got all the screws out. This one's not, I think this one's just in some punky wood or something. So it's not moving too much. But let's see if we can get this one piece out. Gotta get this under, then maybe I can unscrew it. Oh yeah, we definitely had water getting in there. Without a doubt. A little more work than I wanted, but might just need to clean this up and get a sealant under it and just leave it as is, because I don't have thin enough teak for that. I'm gonna have to plane it down or sand it down, and I just don't have the time for that. Between doing a quick job or just doing it right, because doing it right often takes way more time. But of course, this is the better way to do it. But we can't have a giant gaping hole in our boat for ages, so we gotta figure this out. It's like there was like a trough that they tried to seal with some sort of butyl or something in between here, but it didn't hold up, and so the water got in underneath and has just been eating away at all the wood here. It'll dry out. It's teak, so it's still reasonably solid, even though it got pretty rotten. I can't understand why they thought putting almost a ½ inch of teak caulking in there was a good idea. I don't know if you're like, that's an expansion joint or something so that the teak has room to move, but that just seems weird to me. I think I'm gonna have to solidify that a little bit more. I mean, it just fails and then you have to remove the whole hatch. Screws that I couldn't see. A lot easier when you actually get all the freaking screws out, and it just pops right off. And it's wet under here, so it's definitely getting water in there. All right, well, it is what it is. I mean, the sealant there's nothing left of it. Whatever they used, it's not doing its job anymore. And doesn't seem to be an expansion joint as much over here. Another screw in here that I'm not seeing like the last time. If there's 6 screws in this, it's ridiculous. It's only a short piece of wood. So it seems like some sides are on fairly well, some of the trim, and others are just super loose. As soon as I remove the screws from this last piece, it's just super loose. All of the sealant, whatever was used, keep this watertight, keep the water from not going in, is completely gone. It's soaked all through here. So the 2 worst sides are the 2 sides. And it's just crazy to me to put 5 screws in a piece that's this long, but I guess it's holding it down. And there's no expansion joint over here, so the other side is clearly just, they needed to fill the gap, so they used some caulking. We're kind of still making ground south. I don't want to take on a huge project. The wood underneath seems pretty good. I mean, it's a little punky in a couple spots, but once it's dried out, it's the rot doesn't go so far. That's the nice thing about teak. And before we cross the sound tomorrow, I really want to get that hatch at least temporarily sealed up with some butyl and stuff. So I'm going to start by sanding the outside of the teak deck itself with just some Scotch-Brite pads basically, or bronze wool, not steel wool, because if you use steel wool you'll end up with rust stains everywhere. Well, we don't have as much fiberglass to get rust stains on, but still, you don't want steel wool. Bronzeville does the trick just as well. And I'm going to use a orbital sander for the trim around where the actual frame needs to sit. So that little trim piece is actually so that the frame sits flat, otherwise it would be sitting on the deck, which has got a slight curve to it. Saw that on the time lapse, but when I was sanding away this piece, it came undone on this end, and it's barely wet underneath there. The screws of the frame were actually holding that down. It looks like it's still glued at the one end, so I'm probably gonna get something underneath there. So it seems quite stuck in there. We could probably get it off if we wiggle it a bunch, but honestly, there doesn't even look like there was anything sealing the deck there anyway. It was just screwed down. So we'll just slap some sealant under there, let it dry out a little bit, slap some 4200 or something.
Yeah, sounds like a plan.
Just gonna use some Sikaflex 291 to glue this piece down. So, I mean, there's gonna be screws through it anyway, so it's just to hold it down for now and hopefully keep some of the water from wicking in underneath there, and we'll see how it goes. I mean, this is just a temporary fix more than likely anyway, because I don't expect it to last forever. This in black. It's the only thing I have in black, and I want to fill this. So, and the tube's not working with the gun, so I broke down to just troweling it in basically. I got it all taped off, so hopefully I don't make too much of a mess. But at least I get to use the end of the tube because I'm cheap and clean up some of the old tubes that I have lying around, because this needs quite a bit to fill. I was gonna cut a piece of wood, and I will probably do that later, but right now I don't have time. The sun is setting. I gotta get this all slapped back together before tomorrow. So this will hopefully keep some of the water out. If not, I'll pull it all out. It's one of those things. I'm going to try to fight off the urge to clean up any little strings that end up getting past the tape, because it's much easier to clean it up once it dries. You can just sand it away. I kind of got it. Once I remove the tape, it won't look nearly as bad. It's a little bit lower than I'd like because I kind of jammed it in there, but I'd rather the sealant be down in there than up at the top, because there's going to be wood on top of this anyway. For those of you who are cheap like me and try to reuse tubes. The reason why it doesn't work, it's not just the ends, so it makes no difference if you drill at the end and get the end all cleared. All the inside starts drying out as well on the sides of the tube and the back of the tube, so it makes it next to impossible to get it out with the good old gun. This is my second gun within the week because I broke the other one trying to get stuff out of another tube. So anyway, I don't think it's almost worth saving tubes after a certain period of time unless you want to do what I just did and trowel it into place. Oh, yeah?
Not even like a perfect tube, but a good enough one, you know?
Whoops, I scratched through my tape in a few spots. That's alright, a little sanding will get rid of that.
A race against the sun.
Well, at least I got this kind of looking okay. It's all sealed up. The base is good now, at least good enough. So now we can slap some butyl. I'm gonna be doing this at dark, after dark, but it's okay. Got myself a nice little canopy if it starts raining underneath the dinghy. Alright, so I removed the nuts from these bolts on the hinges, but then I realized all of these screws are now protruding. When I installed these, I screwed them all down flush. I didn't like over torque them or anything, but now most of them are sticking up by a decent amount. So I don't know if the amount of butyl, this one's really bad. I don't know if the amount of butyl I put in underneath expanded in the heat. The new job now is to remove the hatch again, remove the butyl. Shouldn't be too hard because it's just held down with butyl. Then remove the frame and reseal it all down with Sikaflex 291, I believe. And we'll see how that works because the butyl was only a temporary job. And also I forgot to do the corners here, which is the main place it leaked. The butyl actually did a beautiful job of keeping the water out. It was just where I had forgotten all the water was seeping in and then just getting everywhere. That'd be more fun than I thought. Man, all my tools are rusty. It sucks. No seams are coming out in the broad daylight because there's no wind. Oh, I hope they don't get too bad. While I have this, I'm not gonna have a choice. I'm gonna have to finish it. Okay, this butyl is a lot more solid than the other stuff I used to use. It's not gonna be as fun as I thought. Scrapers. Just gonna keep going at this. Might take me a little while. Hopefully I don't get eaten alive. One advantage of this warm day is kind of peeling all this butyl fairly easily. I mean, easier than the first time anyway. But it's a sticky mess. Alright, as you can see, I got 2 of the, well actually 3, this one's just sitting there, off. And I could see where the water was migrating in here. I didn't show you because I went to grab some lunch because it was ready. But I'm definitely going to put some Sikaflex under here. Just gonna clean up the butyl so it's somewhat even. Probably not gonna work at taking it all off because, I mean, I don't need to, I don't think. Just gonna add a little more sealant. All right, well, while sort of cleaning up the backside here, this stuff is so melty, it just smears with a trowel fairly well, so it's gonna work fairly good. But I got a bit of a crack down here that I'm just gonna throw some wood glue in. Some Type Bond 3. It's supposed to be waterproof. So yeah, see if we can make this waterproof again so we don't get water seeping down from the base here down in. Let that seep down in the crack. And actually there's a couple screw holes that are a little bigger than I like that I might just pour a little glue in. And then when I put the new screw, it's gonna bite on a little better. At least that's the theory. So yeah, I'll let it soak in a little bit into the holes and then I'll wipe away the excess. And it should give a bit of a bite. This is just quick. And normally I'd want to use epoxy, but I also remove this so you can see how the water's come into the corner and seeped in. And the center is relatively dry because it was pretty well sealed. So I'm actually just gonna slap that piece right back on there with some Sikaflex in between here. Just going to put a little bit glue in these. Anyway, this might not work, but should at least stop it from cracking a little bit more. Just gonna leave it to sit in the sun for a little while the glue dries. Alright, we're all taped up. Use some Varsol or paint thinner on the outside just to clean it up a little bit. And now I'm gonna slap some sealant on. I'm doing this job real quick within a couple hours. So we'll see if it works any better. If not, I'll tear it all apart again because whatever. Oops. Got to tape the inside, that's gonna make a mess. Minimal squeeze out, so let's fix that. That was too cheap. Let's not be cheap. A lot better. More squeeze out. And now this end's gonna be nice and sealed. Got some longer screws and we'll see if that solves my problem of screws coming out. For now I'm just gonna get the screws in place so this can solidify. Well, I did it again. Before everything was completely masked off, I started putting sealant down. I was masking in the middle of putting sealant down actually, so anyway, it worked out. It's not looking too bad. Now I'm just ripping off the tape before it gets too solidified because otherwise you gotta use an X-Acto blade. But it could have been better if I had taped up the other side here and not just the one deck side. But hey, it doesn't look that bad. Yeah, of course I'm showing you the shadowed side. Didn't quite get it in time. Kind of spread out the butyl again. I'm using butyl for the hatch and Sikaflex for underneath and the corners. and we'll see how this works. The temperature is dropping, so it's not spreading as nicely as it was before, but once it heats back up, I should be able to squat down the screws more, and we'll have a bunch squirt out the sides. Added a little bit of sealant here just as a precaution. Beetles squirting out, and I no longer see light coming from in between the frame and the deck, so that's good. Fingers crossed it stays sealed. Complete! I just slapped some butyl where the bungs are going to go. I just want to make sure this is sealed first. My corners look like crap, but I really don't care. They're sealed. I can always cut away the excess after and put another small bead. But I think it's gonna be good. We'll find out.